Oh, we're ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Lay down some of our questions.
All right. So
Lay it on me.
there was a few that we didn't do last week.
Mhm.
So to go back to those, the first one was water loss, sensible versus insensible versus obligatory.
Okay, here we go. Water loss. All right. The most important thing, I like this picture here because what? What goes in needs to equal what goes out. Okay? And what are the things that help us get water? Metabolism. 10% of the water that we have in our bodies, we made through cellular respiration. Foods. We don't eat sand, we eat food that has water in it. But of course, what's the majority of the way we get water in us? Through drinking. Got it? Okay. How about water loss? Yes, we do have water in our feces. We don't eat a brick, right? That would hurt. Yes, we lose water by sweat, but the insensible water losses are water losses you and I cannot sense. For example, can you tell you're losing water when you're breathing? But you are. Who has had to put on rubber gloves? What's on the inside of your gloves after a couple of hours?
Sweat.
Water, because you're losing water through your skin all the time. You can't sense that, so it's insensible. Make sense? But the majority of what we lose is in our urine. Now here's the good news for healthcare workers. How would you keep track of a patient's kidney health if they were in your care? Simple. Does what they drink equal what they pee out? Got it? And that's why when you have a patient in the hospital, it's happened to me. Even though I was in there for the heart attack that I had, and I had to be observed overnight, they told me, just pee into this little urinal thing here and leave it next to your bed, and the nurse will empty it. Don't empty it in the toilet. That's because she has to measure it first and write down, because they know exactly how many ounces of water they gave you to drink, and they need to make sure that what comes out of you equals that. Does that make sense? Otherwise, that might indicate your kidneys are not working. All right? That may not be a big deal until you go home, but guess what? It's only going to get worse, and you will be back. So why not nip it in the bud? We have you for 24 hours. Let's make sure your kidneys are okay. Does that make sense? So that's why we have to make sure. So we know what the insensibles are. Now, what's an obligate? Okay? Obligatory means you have to. Do you have to breathe? So you're going to have to lose that way. Got it? Do you have to poop? So you have to lose water that way. Okay? And of course, do you have to pee? Yes. So you lose water in obviously obligatory ways, which include the insensibles. Got it? You cannot hold water forever. You have to get rid of it. That four? All right. That's it.
Question on that one. Are you going to ask us about the percentages?
No.
Okay.
No. Never.
All right. Next one. How to increase I can never say words. How do you say it?
Osmolality.
Osmolality of the interstitium.
Interstitium. Let's keep it simple. What is the interstitium? It's the space between your kidney tube and the peritubular capillary. Got it? So it's that interstitial space. It's the tissues there, right? Okay. Why do we say we have to increase the osmolality? Osmolality, let's keep it simple. It's just the solids. Got it? Osmosis is the movement of water, and the movement of water is towards your osmolality. It's moving towards the solids, your salt, for example. Got it? So if I want the water to move out of my kidney tube, what should I put outside my kidney tube to draw the water? Salt. And we do that automatically when we put on our sodium-potassium pump. So here we go. Here's a quick picture. Not the best in the world, but There is a picture in here. Okay. Come on. Okay. Now, maybe a little hard to tell because this is talking about acids and bases, but the picture, there was one in the kidney chapter, okay? But this is your lumen of your proximal tube. This is the interstitial space, and here is the peritubular capillary. And I want this to move over here. Well, the first thing we do is turn on the sodium-potassium pump. What are we doing? We're pumping salt into the interstitium, which then draws the water. That's it. Okay? Now here, it's pushing out the salt from this cell, which draws the salt in from the peritubular capillary, and with the salt, sodium goes this way, and the acid comes out because it's an antiport. That's all. Okay? That's all that's showing you. But the concept of the interstitium is the same. Do you remember when we did the loop of Henle? Down the first side, water comes out. On the second side, going up, the salt comes out. Well, the more salt comes out, more water gets drawn out. Got it? More salt, more water. And that's what we mean by increase the osmolality of the interstitial space. Put more salt outside to draw the water out. Okay? Cool bean?
Causes of hypokalemia was the next one that we.
Okay. Let's talk about that. What is hypo and what is hyperkalemia?
Low or high potassium.
Kalemia, potassium. Okay. Well, one of the diseases will increase your potassium. Which hormonal disease increases your potassium? Because that's one of the key symptoms. You almost said it.
Hypothyroidism?
No, not the thyroid.
It's not parathyroid. No.
Nope, that's calcium,
Okay.
not potassium. Okay. Addison's disease.
Oh.
Addison's disease will raise your blood potassium. Why do I not want hyperkalemia?
So it'll stop your heart?
It'll stop your heart. Remember, it's potassium chloride in the lethal injection. All right? Okay.
So what hormone was that for Addison's disease?
Cortisol.
Cortisol.
Okay.
That's what it is.
That's a lack of cortisol. Gives you Addison's. So what happens if you have too much cortisol? That's Cushing's disease. Well, it pushes your potassium in the wrong direction. And another way to lose potassium, and this is probably the main thing in this chapter, diuretics. There are diuretics that are literally called potassium wasting diuretics. Because the more you pee, the diuretic will make you pee more potassium. And so you'll lose it. Got it? And you'll have to be on some kind of potassium supplement, or you change to another diuretic. And that's why in nursing school you'll find that there's lots of different versions of diuretics. Because if this is not compatible with your patient, they have too many side effects, you switch it to something else. Got it? It's a derivative or it works slightly differently. I think last night we talked about where do most diuretics work? Where in your kidney? Just like the 3 hormones. Where do they work? Is it in the proximal tube? No. Loop of Henle? No. Distal tube? No. It's in the
collecting
collecting duct.
Yeah.
The 3 hormones work on the collecting duct, as do many of the diuretics. However, there is another classification of diuretics called loop diuretics. Gee, I wonder what they work on. Loop of Henle. Which one? The descending or the ascending?
Ascending?
Yes, the ascending. Because the ascending one pumps out the salt. Well, if you shut down those pumps, the salt stays in the lumen. And what follows salt? Water. And that's what makes you pee more. You hold on to the salt, which makes you hold on to the water and pee out. Hold on to it, meaning in the filtrate. Got it? Okay. See, you're getting it. Thinking clinically, right? Okay. All right, what's next?
Let's see. Next up, the last one that was from
The other time?
the other time. Hypercalcemia versus hypocalcemia.
Okay, so high and low calcium. All right. Now, you tell me which hormone is in charge of your calcium levels?
PTH.
PTH. All right. So if your PTH is high, what's your calcium levels going to be in your blood?
Low. No, high.
High, because it's digging the calcium out of your bones.
Yeah.
10-4? So it'll be high. So what if it's too high? It might be because there's something wrong with your parathyroid gland. Got it? And so guess what? Since your parathyroid gland, remember your thyroid is this butterfly, and on the back are 4 little buttons, and those are your parathyroids. The doctor has to decide which one of those 4 we have to destroy and stop producing too much PTH. Alrighty? And we had a teacher here. She's got married and moved on, but she was feeling run down, and this ached and that ached, and she didn't understand what was going on. And so they found out, yeah, your PTH levels are up through the roof. So it's one of your parathyroids. So what they did is they actually had her on a line where they can get, while they're in operation, levels of her PTH. Because she told us, she goes, and what they did is they went in there and they took out or destroyed the first node, the first little parathyroid gland, and guess what? Her PTH levels went right down. The guy said, okay, we got the right one. Let's close her up. We're done. Okay? And she said, well, what if that wasn't the right one? Well, we had to do the second one. And if that wasn't it, we had to do the third one. If that wasn't it, we had to do the fourth one. So they were lucky they picked the right one. That was not cooperative. Okay? And her PTH levels went fine. And all her symptoms went away. It was really cool.
If they destroy all of them, then she wouldn't.
They didn't have, what happens if they destroy all of them?
No PTH.
Now you have to be on artificial PTH. Got it? 10-4? But as it turned out, it worked out okay.
Cool. So for that one, that question, it would specifically
now
be right around
something else
PTH.
you need to understand. Calcium is the main depolarizer of your heart. Remember, it's calcium in, potassium out. Calcium in, potassium out. As opposed to sodium in, potassium out. So if I have too much calcium, that's going to give me arrhythmias. If I have too little calcium, it's going to give me arrhythmias. And that's one of the things about the electrolytes. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. All 4 of those have to be in homeostasis, because too much or too little of any of them is going to affect your heart. And of course, remember, A in front of any word means not, so your heart will not be in a regular rhythm. Sometimes too fast, sometimes too slow, sometimes irregular. Okay?
For the question like hypercalcemia versus hypocalcemia, are we mainly need to focus on what it's going to cause or what causes it?
If you have hypercalcemia, would you have more or less kidney stones? Hyper. Of course. Because now you got too much calcium phosphate and calcium oxalate and calcium other things and they'll form rocks in your kidneys. Does that make sense? And if I don't have enough calcium, I definitely won't have enough to, depolarize my heart. Does that make sense? So there are problems with too much and problems with too little. That's the main thing.
Cool. All right. The first one on chapter 24, what causes acidosis? What causes alkalosis?
Okay, so let's go to the acid and base story. Okay. Acidosis means I'm going to have a chemical that releases H's into my blood, all right? And here are the sources of H's. Aerobic cellular respiration, carbonic acid. Let me draw this on the board, okay? Because we're going to refer to this several times today. All right, cellular respiration is C6H12O6, glucose, plus oxygen yields what? Carbon dioxide and water. Okay? These are the things your cells make, and they get picked up by your blood. Okay? Well, that's not the end of the story, because your red blood cell will take this and put it together. That's carbonic acid. Okay? That's carbonic acid. Alrighty? Now here's the beautiful thing. Your red blood cell doesn't just hold on to this, it changes it. It will cut one H off, and what's left? Bicarbonate, which is a base. Got it? Alright, so here's your red blood cell. There's your RBC. He does this. He takes some of your tissues, puts it together inside him. Alrighty? Well, while we're here, what if your patient is acidic? What if your patient is too basic? Got it? Remember, we always want to keep our pH within the 7.35, 7.45 range. Got it? Too much, you're too basic. Too little, you're too acidic. And what's the problem with too much acid or too much base? Why you don't want this?
It'll kill us.
Why does it kill us? Talk to the D.
Denature.
Denatures our proteins. And who are our proteins? 90% of our hormones, all of our neurotransmitters, all of our enzymes, and every receptor for things. And when you denature a protein, you change its shape. And now all of a sudden, a round peg can't fit in a square hole. Does that make sense? So whether you change the receptor and it can't work, or you change the enzyme and it can't work, you're going to have problems. And if those are life-preserving functions that have been stopped, bingo, that's the end. Does that make sense? Okay. So we want to keep it in a very narrow range. All right. So this, the way I look at it, this is the garbage man. Got it? Aren't we making this as trash? Well, the garbage man comes and picks it up. But for us, straight to the dump. This is the garbage truck is going to make something happen that's actually good for us. Here's what he's going to do. Oh my goodness. I find my body is too acidic. So the red blood cell will take this and put it into our acidic to get us back to normal. Got it? Back to normal. What if you're too basic? It'll take this acid and add it so we get back to normal. Why? Because if I have an upset stomach, what do I have too much of? Stomach acid. So what do I take? Rolaids, Tums. What's Rolaids and Tums?
A base.
It's sodium bicarbonate or calcium bicarbonate, but it's a base. Because an acid is neutralized with a base, and a base is neutralized with an acid. So it gets us back to 7.4. Does that make sense? We call this, what's happening here, we call this the blood buffer system. And the blood buffer system is the first line of defense against acid-base imbalance. Alrighty? This cannot handle a lot of acid or a lot of base, but it can handle a small amount of acid, like you just ate some pickles. Okay? You drank a glass of lemonade. Got it? That's a small amount of acid that right into your blood, and oh, quick, let's balance that. Okay? So there's no problems. What if this system in your blood is overwhelmed? What's the next system that kicks in? What's number 2 to help us out?
The phosphate?
No, that's in your pee.
protein buffer system?
No, that's everywhere. But it's also quick things like this. No, the next one is your lungs. Here's how we know. Sorry, keep moving around.
Okay.
How do I make lactic acid? If I run out of oxygen because I'm working real hard, well, when you're working out, when you're doing aerobic exercise, what are you going to do? Breathe harder, because that's just it. Sorry, back and forth again. So guess what number 2 is? Your respiratory system kicks in. Respiratory system kicks in. You breathe heavier. Why do you breathe heavier? Well, you can't breathe out lactic acid. What do you breathe out?
Carbon dioxide.
If I get rid of my carbon dioxide, I'll make, see if that goes down, I make less of this. If I make less carbonic acid, that helps. Got it? I can't lower my lactic acid, but I can lower another acid. And here's something I tell my students all the time, and I probably said it in the video as well. Whenever you see CO2 in this chapter, think acid. Not that CO2 is an acid, but it quickly becomes an acid because we always add it to the oxygen, the water that we're also making. 10-4? So when I lower my CO2, I'm lowering an acid level. Got it? Now, what if breathing can't help us? There's too much acid or too much base. What's our last and third line of defense to save us?
Renal?
Last week's chapter, the kidneys. Got it? So, your urinary system. Your kidneys are the ultimate regulators of acid base. Why? Because if you're too acidic, we pee out the acid. If you're too basic, guess what? We pee out the base. How do we know that? Because in the urinary chapter, our pee is usually a pH of 6. But under extreme cases, it can be as low as 4.5 or as high as 8. So, what am I peeing out when I'm 4.5? Acid. And what am I peeing out here?
Base.
Got it? So, my kidneys are the ultimate regulators. Think about it. What else do your kidneys ultimately regulate? Don't overthink it. Water balance. You got too much water, you pee it out. What else do you pee out?
The waste with it?
Well, that's normal. I mean, to keep you in balance. Sugar. Diabetes mellitus. I got so much sugar in my blood, I have to pee it out. 10-4? So what's the disease where I'm peeing out so much water?
Insipidus.
Diabetes insipidus. Peeing out too much sugar?
Mellitus.
Diabetes mellitus. Got it? What's the cause of diabetes insipidus?
Lack of A and B? No, ADH.
ADH. And what causes diabetes mellitus?
Too little insulin.
Insulin. Good. Got it? Okay. So, your urinary system will get, oh, what else can it pee out?
Salt?
Salt. And which hormone says pee out the salt? Now you got it.
A&P.
A and P. Got it? Atrial natriuretic peptide. It tells you. Natri, salt, uretic. Pee it out. Got it? So your kidneys will try to help with acid, with base, with water, and with salt. Hey, what's the title of this chapter? Acid, base, and salt and water balance. Got it? Which is why I always add this to the renal chapter, because they go hand in hand. Cool? Alright. Let's take a quick look at the rest of these. So I normally make carbonic acid just with cellular respiration. That's a type of acid. I also can make lactic acid if I'm working out and running out of oxygen in my tissues, in my muscles. Got it? But what else? if I have diabetes mellitus, do I have enough carbohydrates to burn? No. So what are my cells having to burn? Fats. When you burn fats, you make ketones, which are keto acids. And now you go into ketoacidosis. Got it? So that happens with people who have diabetes mellitus. It also happens for people who took the Atkins diet, where you weren't allowed to eat any carbs at all. The original Atkins diet, which is steak and bacon, bacon and steak. Now, of course, guys are going, hey man, that's wonderful. I'll do that all day long. I like my salads. I like my apples. There's no way I did it. But I knew plenty of people who lost weight on it. But guess what? They all ended up in the hospital with acidosis. So they got off of it and ballooned right back up to what they were before or more. Now there's the new Atkins diet, which allows you to eat some lettuce and eat some rice and eat some.
But how does eating that much fatty meat slim you down?
Because what you're doing is you're breaking down your fat as well as the fat in the food to stay alive. And that's all they want, to get you to go down. That's what the keto diet is all about. There's more meat on the keto diet than there is anything else. Okay? But the thing is, if we don't have carbs in our diet, we don't make the Krebs cycle work. If the Krebs cycle doesn't work, we go straight to making ketones. Okay? All right. Now, we do make some sulfuric acid and phosphoric acid when we break down amino acids or nucleic acids that contain sulfur or contain phosphate. So some meats do contain that. So there's also, if you just break those down, we make more of that. Okay? But don't sweat it too much. Cool beans? This is definitely the three biggies. But all of these release H's into your blood, making your pH go down. 10-4? All right. What's next?
Real quick, just to clarify before we move on.
Go for it.
So, with this question, what are causes acidosis? It would be all of the ways we are getting H's or acids.
Cellular respiration, working out.
Yep. And then
diabetes mellitus, or
ketones.
Yeah, or making ketones from starvation diets. Okay.
And then for alkalosis,
okay, alkalosis. Well, let's get to alkalosis. That's the only item. Let's do alkalosis. Come on, I knew you're in here somewhere. That's regulation. Okay, come on, Weber. I know it was in here because I just did it yesterday with my students. Otherwise, I'll just have to tell you what it is. Okay, I know it's in here. Where are you? That's strong and weak. We'll talk about the strong and weak in a second.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we get rid of acids. Okay, here we go. That's it. Alkalosis. Alkalosis can be caused by your breathing. Okay? Excess loss of carbon dioxide. Well, how do you lose carbon dioxide? Hyperventilation. So I blow away all my CO2. I'm lowering my CO2, which makes me lower my carbonic acid. Less acid, you got more base. Okay? Could be from high altitude breathing, because you're having to breathe faster and harder to try to get more oxygen in, but again, you're getting rid of more CO2. And look, even playing a musical instrument, if you're in the band or you're playing in a symphony and you're not used to breathing correctly, you're forcing out your breath more when you're playing your trumpet or whatever, you could also lose more carbon dioxide that way. Okay? So that's caused by respiration. But there's also problems in other regions. That's why they call it metabolic. If it's not your kidneys, if it's not your lungs causing the problem, the rest of your body. We call that metabolic. Alrighty? So, what could this be? I'm losing stomach acid, or I'm vomiting stomach acid, or I am peeing out all my acid with a diuretic, or I am taking too many tum-to-tum-tums. And yes, I hear this from my nursing students all the time. Somebody will come in because people just can't wait. They want, I want that medicine to fix it right now, right? So, I got an upset stomach, because I ate too many spicy wings, right? So, instead of taking 1 Tums, and I'll take 2. I want to get it over with. Well, son of a gun, 5 minutes later, I still don't feel better. I'll take 5. You just overdid yourself. Got it? You just overdone it with the antacid tablets. Look at this, chronic constipation. I asked my doctor, because he was like, do you poop? I said, yeah, every day, I'm pretty regular. And he said, the reason I ask is I've got patients who haven't pooped in 3 weeks. I'm going like, where are they keeping it? I don't know. You eat every day, 3 times a day, and you don't poop? Where are you keeping it? Anyway, guess what a large part of your poop is? Calcium bicarbonate. So if it stays in your rectum, we reabsorb the bicarbonate. Got it? So if I keep reabsorbing a base, I will become basic. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's it. And what are the symptoms? Dizziness, lightheadedness. Got it? You're out of whack. All right? Acidosis too, but acidosis will lead to death. Okay? All right, are we cool?
Very good. Oh. All right, next up.
Irregular.
What is compensation for metabolic acidosis?
Okay. What we need to understand about the compensation part, if one part of your body is causing the acidosis, the other part of your body will compensate. And here is how it works. If your lungs are the cause, your kidneys compensate. If your kidneys or your body are the cause, your lungs compensate. Does that make sense? All right. Let's quickly, since we're here, we'll go to the compensation in a second. Do you remember, I think there's a picture on there about, see, they should say the respiration that we said. Was there a thing about strong and weak acid?
On the PowerPoint?
On your study guide. There was last night.
Yes, it just says the difference between strong acids and weak acids.
There you go. Okay. That's a strong acid. This is a weak acid. They've both been placed into a beaker of water. What can you tell me is the difference in what you see?
Just H's and just it's not broken down or
exactly. When you put an acid into water, it dissociates. It comes apart. It doesn't break because if I take the water out, it comes back together again. Same thing with salt. When you put salt in water, it breaks into Na plus and Cl minus. But when you dry it up, bloop, it comes back together as salt crystals in the bottom of the beaker. Alrighty? So it's dissociate. Alright? Strong acids completely dissociate. Weak acids do not. You see, as long as this is together, it doesn't hurt you. What hurts you are the naked H's. Got it? The H pluses are the ow of being acidic. That's got all H's because every one of these hydrochloric acids dissociated. Got it? So that one hurts more. Does that make sense? Now the same thing is true for your bases. A strong base would be like NaOH, which then breaks up into NAs with a plus charge, of course, and OHs with a minus charge. That's the hydroxides, all right? And it's the hydroxides that hurt you if you have too many of them, and it's the H's that hurt you if you have too many of them. Got it? But when an acid and a base come together, what does H plus OH make? H and OH.
H2O.
H2O, water. That's why they neutralize each other. Got it? That's why they neutralize each other. Because we turn it into salt and water.
Trick question.
Good trick question. Good trick question. Okay? Are you with me? All right. So that's why you don't want to put your hand in a very strong acid or in a strong base. The strong acid will denature all the proteins. You're going to pull back the skeleton. If you put it into a base, the base will destroy your proteins, but also your lipids. And again, you pull back the skeleton. Okay? That's what's in soap. What does soap taste like? Tastes like chocolate bars? Why did Mama say, you say that word again, I'm going to clean your mouth out with soap? Was that a, ooh, let me curse some more? Or, ugh? Because soap tastes bitter. Why? All bases taste bitter. Soap is made of a base, because bases dissolve fat. What you talking about, Willis? Well, what makes dirt stick to your hands? The oils of your hands. That's why just water doesn't take dirt off your... Does water take dirt off your plates? Does just water take dirt off your clothes? It's the grease that sticks the dirt to your plates. It's the grease that sticks the dirt to your clothes. So we have to use detergents, some kind of soap, which is a base, okay, attached to a lipid. Got it? Because it takes one to dissolve one. 10-4? And that's why Dawn takes grease out of your way. But we don't just put Dawn in the dishwasher and drizzle water on it. Don't we spray water on it? When you wash your hands, you don't just go like this. Don't you go like this? What's the thing inside your washing machine? An agitator. Because you've got to agitate the water to make sure you loosen the dirt and the grease off of your clothes. Got it? Okay. How we doing? Hanging in there? All right.
Did we, so...
now compensation.
Compensation, yeah.
Sorry, let's go to compensation. All right. This is a really cool concept, okay? Oh, by the way, see, didn't we say defense against pH shift? The first thing is the chemical buffer systems. The bicarbonate buffer system in your blood, the phosphate buffer system in your pee-pee, and the protein buffer systems that are everywhere, okay? But they can only do so much, all right? What's the next thing? Respiration, where we either get rid of CO2 or hold CO2 to help balance. Got it? And if that doesn't work, boom, then our kidneys kick in. Get rid of the H's or hold on to the H's depending on what the situation is. Okay? All right. So, okay. What's the number one reason a patient is in acidosis? Respiratory. Okay? Respiratory. Meaning some kind of COPD. I can't breathe out or I can't breathe in very well, but what am I doing every time? Trapping CO2. And when I hold CO2, I make carbonic acid, which makes me become acidic. Okay? So that's the number one problem is breathing difficulties. 10-4. Injury in the brain stem, obstruction, diseases that hinder gases like pneumonia. Got it? Emphysema, where you trap the air. Remember? Can't get it out. So all of those things are the main reason that a person, your patient in the future, would have some kind of acidosis caused by the lungs. Got it? If it's caused by any other body part, it's called metabolic. What could this be? Kidney disease, where I can't pee out the acid. Or prolonged diarrhea. Got it? Or diabetes mellitus, where you're making ketones. Got it? Or the starvation diet. All right. And again, what's going to happen? Disorientated supercyanosis and maybe death. All right? And we talked about the alkalosis. Again, either caused by breathing or caused by other things. Remember that? Okay. So, and this is a nice little chart that shows you how it works. I think your book has these little charts here. All righty. Now, we need to keep this in mind. I will give it to you on your test so you don't have to flip out. But normal partial pressure of carbon dioxide in your body, in your blood gases, is 35 to 45 millimeters of mercury pressure. All right? We call these in nursing school ABGs, or your arterial blood gases. And you're going to have, in nursing school, you're going to have like formulas and things to plug these numbers in. I have a little bit different way of doing it. Okay? All right. So that's a normal range. What if my CO2 was less than 35? Would I be more acid or more base?
Less than, maybe more base.
More base. And if I'm higher than this, I'd be more acid. Remember, think CO2, think acid. All right? Well, in your kidneys, we don't pee out CO2, we pee out bicarbonate. And bicarbonate is normally between 22 and 26. Okay? So if it's lower than 22, that's
acid.
More acid. If it's higher than 26, it's more base. Because this HCO3 is a base. 10-4. And of course, we know our pH, 7.35, 7.45, right? Okay. The idea is, if the imbalance is due to the respiratory system, the kidneys will compensate. If it's caused by the kidneys, the lungs will compensate. 10-4. Compensate means let me take over. Let me help reverse the acidosis or the alkalosis. Got it? Now, if both systems are in trouble, yeah, your patient is in big trouble. But under normal circumstances, if one is the cause, the other is the compensation for it. Okay? So when we're doing ABGs in nursing school, or we're looking at these numbers in my class, just realize the first thing you want to do is who caused it, and then the other guy is the compensation. Okay? So let's see. This is a chart. Some of my students, I mentioned this in the video, love this chart. Others go, oh my God, it confuses me. So I'm going to quickly say, if the cause is my lungs, because I'm holding too much CO2, who's going to help? My kidneys by peeing out the acid. Got it? If I'm holding and making too much acid through my lungs, I'm going to make up for it by peeing out the acid. See how one takes over for the other? Okay. That's all this chart is saying. But this chart won't be on your test. What's going to be on your test is this. Okay? So if you would, make sure you have these numbers in front of you. So if you want to write that down, I will have this box on your test. So you don't have to guess what the ranges of CO2 and bicarbonate are. Does that make sense? In nursing school, you do have to memorize these numbers when you're taking the test on this topic, but not for me. Okay? Everybody got it? Okay. So, CO2 35 to 45, and bicarbonate 22 to 26, right? Okay. So, here is a classic example of what Mr. River would give you. I'm going to give you a pH. I'm going to give you a CO2 level, and I'm going to give you a bicarbonate level. Are you with me? And I'm going to ask you, who's causing the problem and who's trying to compensate? All right? So let's do it step by step. Ready? A pH of 6.8, is that acidic or basic? Acidic. And since this is higher than normal, that would be acidic. And since this is higher than normal, it's basic. Got it? Okay. So all I ask you to do is this. Which one is the same as the pH? My pH is acid, so who caused this? The other acid. Does that make sense? Well, this acid is a respiratory situation. Got it? So the problem is respiratory acidosis. See, I'm doing a step-by-step for you? Now, what's this then? See? The compensation is the one that's the opposite of the pH. See? He's trying to help. The kidneys are trying to help because I'm acidic. So the kidneys are saying, tell you what, I'll pee out the acid and I'll hold more bicarbonate to make up for it. Remember, acid plus base makes salt and water. Does that help? That's as deep as it gets. That's the way it works. So let's do this one real quick. Okay, let's make up one. You want to move it over here? All right, we'll make up a quick one. pH, PCO2, and bicarbonate. Okay? All right. Give me a pH that's not normal.
7.5.
Okay, 7.5. Give me a CO2 that's not normal.
30.
30. Okay? Now, is 30 higher than normal or lower than normal? Lower than normal? Okay. All right, and then a bicarb that's, is that lower than normal too?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody with me? All right. Now, since I like to use colors, blue for basic, red for acidic. What's my pH indicate the patient is?
Alkalosis.
Okay. Base. Got it? Is this higher or lower than normal?
Lower.
Lower than normal. So lower than normal acid would be base. So he's basic. That's a base, but this number is lower than normal. So what's that indicate? Acid. So who's the problem?
Respiratory.
Respiratory alkalosis. Who's the compensation? The kidneys. Yes, ma'am.
What if it was all like basic?
It can't be.
Like ever?
Unless that patient is really screwed up. Because then he's getting problems with his lungs and his kidneys at the same time. This is the only thing you'll see in a nursing class, okay? What they'll do is they'll say, 22. Is 22 acidic or basic?
It's in range.
Exactly. So this is normal. Got it? 10-4? So, what is happening to this patient?
Kidneys aren't responding.
Exactly. It's still respiratory alkalosis, but the kidneys haven't begun their compensation yet. Got it? That's the only, monkey wrench they'll throw in during a nursing test. Got it? Now, like I said, the way they teach it, you put these numbers into formulas and stuff like that, it's totally different. Okay? I just want to say, just match up the two basics or match up the two acids, and you got it. Okay? Because the other guy has to be the compensation. We don't have everybody being basic. Got it? There's got to be somebody who's opposite, who's trying to help out.
Will compensation ever pertain to the chemical buffer systems in the blood, or it's specific to the respiratory?
Oh, it's much bigger than this because when you're this far off, you're past your buffer systems.
Okay.
Remember, the buffers is very small changes like drinking lemonade. Got it? Eating some pickles. It's small changes. That's why I think your book and your PowerPoint say it resists a drift in pH. Got it? Well, if you're drifting down the river, are you in a rubber raft or in a speedboat?
Rubber raft.
So you're not going very fast. See, as long as it's a nice slow change in pH from just eating something, that's not the same thing as, I can't breathe. Got it? That's a bigger thing. Does that help? I'm not just saying that. All right, what else?
Look at my email later.
Huh?
Look at my email later.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right.
What, the one that says, help! Exclamation point.
I'm gonna fail again.
Define fluid balance is the next one.
Okay. We kind of did it already. No, that's water. That's fluid balance. What goes in should equal what?
What comes
What
in?
goes out. That's it.
We don't, and you said we don't have to know the
And
percentages.
don't worry about the percentages. No,
Yeah.
no.
No problem.
Just the concepts of insensible, obligatory, and the easiest thing that what you drink equals what you pee in most cases. So that's a good way to assess whether somebody's kidneys are functional. Got it? I mean, you're drinking a nice big drink there. There'd be something wrong with you if you didn't pee in the next 3 or 4 hours. Does that make sense? I mean, I had 1 cup of coffee and I'm peeing, an hour later. I can't wait any longer.
For obligatory, that just pertains to the output.
Right.
They won't know.
Yeah. Because those are things you cannot control. You have to pee, you have to poop, and you have to have water coming out of your breath and stuff because you have to stay alive.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next up, dilute urine caused by blank.
Okay. What's dilute urine?
Watery.
More water, less solute. So which hormone makes sure you have more water and less solute?
Not having ADH?
That's right. Something wrong with your ADH and you're peeing water. Got it? Hence the name insipidus, because insipid means tasteless. Does that make sense? Okay.
Is it?
That's it.
Cool.
So, lack of ADH. So what makes you have concentrated urine?
ADH.
ADH. That's ADH's job.
Or
you have concentrated urine.
A and
Hold
P.
more water and pee out more salt. Less water. Concentrated. If you're dehydrated, your ADH kicks in, and that's why you pee more yellowy, more stinky pee because it's less water in it.
What about aldosterone? Does that have anything to do with anything?
Well, aldosterone is involved because aldosterone works with ADH. They're synergists. Mm-hmm. They work together. Because aldosterone tells your kidneys, hold salt. Well, who follows the salt?
Water.
So we're actually holding water at the same time, like aldosterone tells your kidneys to do, which is just hold water. But together, they both make you pee less. One deals with salt specifically, one deals with water specifically. That's all. Okay? So if aldosterone says hold salt, keep it in your blood, who's the opposite? Your favorite. A&P, which says pee out the salt. And of course, who follows the salt is water. And that's how diuretics work. Got it? Keep the salt in the filtrate so we'll draw more water out. Who needs a diuretic?
Are we talking people or?
Yeah, what kind of patient needs a diuretic? People with low blood pressure or high? High. Because they might have high blood pressure because they have too much water in their blood, too much volume. We got to lower that. What else could be a trigger that the doctor says, you need a diuretic? Grandma's cankles.
Oh.
Because if you have too much fluid, gravity will pull it down, and now you're going to get edema in your ankles. Why? Because gravity pulls it down to the bottom of your body. Okay? What's another reason? What's another patient that might need to be on diuretics? You're already peeing too much with diabetes. You're peeing out all your salt. You're constantly peeing. You don't need to pee out anymore. You need to get rid of the salt, the sugar problem. They need insulin. A person with fluid built up around their heart. Because what do we call that?
Pericarditis. No.
Yeah, pericarditis would lead to infusion of fluid. Well, if you got a bunch of fluid, How are you going to get rid of it? By peeing more. Got it? That'll eventually bring that down. Because I don't want that fluid. It's going to push on my heart. My heart can't beat. What's that called? My heart can't beat. The fluid is pushing on it.
Partial heart failure?
No. Partial heart failure is electrical. That's a problem with your bundle of his.
No, okay. I can't remember the pressure.
Cardiac tamponade. Cardiac tamponade. Cool? Alright.
All right.
Something like that.
But you see how I like to draw things from other chapters? Because that really, when you're going into the healthcare field, and yes, even in the field you're going into, you cannot just look at the page and say, okay, this is one isolated incident. It's more like, okay, is this part of it? Is this part of it? Right? You got to keep your options open as to what could be the things that are troubling the patient that you're dealing with. Does that make sense? It can't just be one thing, one problem, one pill fixed, one problem, one, thing, and you're done. It usually is multiple things that are happening, and we have to kind of diagnose. Got it? And just between you and me, sometimes I think a physical diagnosis might even be easier than a mental diagnosis. Right? All right, go ahead.
Chief cation and ion in the intracellular fluid and the extracellular fluid.
Okay, this is a good one. Looky here. Extracellular fluid is your blood. Intracellular fluid is your cells. Got it? Just keep it simple. Well, gee, look at the top positive and negative. It's sodium and chlorine because of the salt we eat. Got it? The salt on your French fries, the salt on your eggs, the salt that is just about in everything, even Coca-Colas. Why do manufacturers of food put salt in everything?
Because we want to drink
love the taste. And if you want to sell more Cokes, you put in more salt and more sugar than the other guy. Got it? Okay. Because we love the taste of sugar, we love the taste of salt. What's the third thing we love the taste of? Fat. That's why we love fried potato chips and French fries. No one wants to eat a boiled fry. Got it? At least it's cooked, yeah, but is it cooked the way we like it? We like the taste of the grease. 10-4, which is why they put it in everything. All right. So does that make sense? Now look at these two. Why is potassium the number one positive ion inside your cells?
Because of the sodium-potassium pump?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember, here are your two ions. Whenever we have these in our diet, the sodium-potassium pump pumps the sodium out into the blood and pumps the potassium into the cells. Got it? Never the other way around, unless we're starting to talk Addison's disease. Got it? Because this is not good for us. Remember, the lethal injection. So this is the way it's supposed to be. So that's why this is always in the extracellular fluid, and this is the number one in the intracellular fluid, because of the pump that's working. Okay? All right. Now, what about phosphate? Why is phosphate PO4 negative? Why is it the number one negative anion in your cells? All right. Follow me.
ATP.
Yes. That's right. Okay, here we go. ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. We have 4 phosphate units attached to one adenosine. Now this is our energy molecule, right? But where is 90% of the energy in this molecule?
In the last bond.
This bond right here. Got it? So if I want to extract that energy, I break this bond. And out comes the energy that I can use to make my muscles work and other things. Got it? Cellular transport and things like that. Alrighty? So, if I'm chopping off a PO4 millions of times every day in every cell, what's my cell going to be full of? PO4s. And we never do this in the blood because your blood doesn't need ATP. That's why there's no PO4s in your blood, or very little. It's in your cells that we need the energy. Does that make sense? Okay. Cool beans? Remember, it's not just, it's cold in here, isn't it? It's not, yesterday they had the heaters on at 90. It was so hot. I had to call on it and say, turn this off. Instead of turning it off, hey, let's turn on the air conditioners full blast. Why does everything have to be full blast? It was so hot in here we couldn't even breathe. You know, you feel like you're in a hot house or something, you know? Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Yet the whole time it's like, how come we don't have any money? Because you're blowing it on electricity.
Literally.
Jeez. How about let me regulate the temperature and give me the pay raise, you know? Let me have the what we say. I'm gonna be in trouble. All right. What's next?
Next up, body water content, male versus female.
Male versus female. Okay. What contains more water? Muscle or fat?
Muscle.
Why?
Because water doesn't mix with...
Exactly. Fat hates water. So the more fat you have, the more adipose tissue, the less water you have. Well, guys, because of testosterone and male growth hormones, has more muscle mass. Girls have more fatty tissue. So girls normally have more water than guys. Guys have more water, than girls. Got it? Because the guys have less fat, girls have more. But we're not talking about, I'm talking like girl, got it? Girl shaped. 10-4? Which is important to us guys, all right? No offense.
So could that be changed then? Like if you
Oh yeah, you
really
can
hard?
change that. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
But
it's not like
under
you're not
normal
due to it.
conditions,
Okay.
girls have more body fat than guys do, so girls have less body water than guys do.
Gotcha. Okay.
Who's got the most fat?
The most fat?
Little babies with little fat
Oh.
cheeks, right? Yeah. Okay. Why? Because they need the energy. Got it? They need the adipose tissue because they're growing. Got it? All right. Go ahead.
All right. Hypotonic
Little
hydration.
baby, little chubby cheeks and stuff, right? Yeah, even baby puppies and baby kids have little chubby cheeks for the exact same reason. Why do you think everybody's going cuckoo over the new pandas that just arrived in Washington, D.C.? That was on the news today. And who was the other? Oh, that was on the news a couple of weeks ago. The little baby hippopotamus that was
Yeah.
born. The pygmy hippo with the little fat, fluffy cheeks. Yeah. All the little babies have a little bit more fat on them because they need it for the energy. Okay? All right, what's else? Where do I keep getting off subject?
Hypotonic hydration consequences.
Okay, what is hypotonic?
No.
More salt or less salt?
Less salt.
Less salt. Got it? And what's hydration?
Water.
So, what would cause you to have more water and less salt in your blood?
No ADH. Or
Or
too much ADH, sorry.
This.
Drinking too much water.
Okay? You see, my friends, I like this. This is very nice. If you're losing water, your cells will give up their water to put water into your blood. Because your blood has got to keep circulating. So what happens? All of your brain cells shrivel up. Got it? Is that a good idea? No. So you don't want to be dehydrated. 10-4. At the same time, you don't want to put more water into your blood than you should, because that water is now going to go into your cells, like into your brain. This is hypotonic hydration. You're drinking more than you're peeing. Got it? And that's what happened to this lady. She was in a hold your wee for a wee contest where they were asked to drink a gallon of water and stand in a line, and the last person to pee wins the week. Got it? Well, nurses call from the local hospital. You can't do this contest. You're killing people. It doesn't matter. It's just water. How could that hurt anybody? Is what the two DJs said. Got it? And they kept hanging up on the nurses. The nurses kept calling. You're going to kill somebody. And they said, it doesn't matter. They all signed a waiver that says if something goes wrong, it's not our fault. Okay? You know, that's an illegal waiver. Because if you kill somebody, all bets are off. Got it? Anyway, this lady didn't win the contest, but she had a terrific headache. And by the time she got home, she lay down on the couch hoping the headache would go away. The damage was already done. When her kids came home from school and her husband came home from work, she was completely unconscious, took her to the hospital where she died because her brain swelled up. Because she had pushed more water into her body than she could pee out because she had to hold it, she wasn't peeing it, and it made her brain start to swell. And once you start brain damage, it keeps on damaging. And that's the problem with hypotonic hydration. Alrighty? This happens, when you have these water drinking contests. This happened when the age of drinking alcohol went up from 18 to 21. See, when I was in college, 18 was drinking age. And what age are you as a freshman in college? 18. And you pledge a sorority or you pledge a fraternity. What do the fraternity brothers, for sure, I don't know about the sororities, want to do to a new pledge? You want to haze them. So you make them drink alcohol till they puke, right? Or do stupid things. Ha ha ha, look at old Fred, right? Well, when it turned to be 21, they said, dang, we can't make them drink alcohol. Hey, I got an idea. Let's make them drink water till they puke. Well, several brothers died of this, hypotonic hydration. So now they're saying, don't do water drinking contests. Got it?
So even if you are brought back from that type of thing, you're still going to have lasting brain damage.
Yes. Your brain can't handle that. Just like they're saying about people who've had multiple concussions in football. Got it? You were unconscious a couple of minutes, and you came back, and you're unconscious again. That's why, what's that guy, Tua? I forgot, he's a quarterback. He's been knocked out 5 times now. And this last time, he said, I want to get back into the game. They said, oh no, you're sitting it out for at least half the semester, half the season. Because we can't afford you to go in there and that be the last time you get hit. Okay? But but that's what happened to several players over the years. And that's why they're working constantly on better helmets and stuff. And that's also why you've got all sorts of penalties if you use the top of your helmet to hit somebody. Got it? So you could break your neck, or you could give somebody a concussion by hitting your helmet right against the side of their head, at full speed. So that's why they call it targeting, and the person who did the targeting ejected. Got it? And I think they give you 10 or 15 yards for penalty. Got it? But yeah, you're ejected for the rest of the game. And if the coach is an honest guy, a person who's ejected from this game is not allowed to play for the first half of the next game as punishment. You shouldn't be targeting somebody. You could hurt yourself by breaking your own neck or give somebody a concussion by hitting them in the head. Okay? The idea is we don't want to have people die just playing football. Have you ever been to the Football Hall of Fame in Akron, Ohio? We had never been there before, but my daughter lives close to that, and her boss, when she worked at a bank, he said, "Oh, your parents are coming up here. Here's 2 tickets for the Football Hall of Fame. Just give it to them and let them have some fun. Free ticket to get in." Shoot, yeah, I love football. Let's go. Oh my gosh! One part was talking about how football started. On average, there were 2 deaths per game. Yeah, they would literally cart off dead people, put in some new people, go, all right, go play. That's when they'll have like a little leather helmet, nothing else. Jeez. You could hit people at any angle from anything, people broken legs, broken arms. Yeah, they had to put in rules that you couldn't do that kind of stuff. So, I can't believe that caught on, Hey, only 2 deaths this week. Let's play the next game. All right. Cool.
All right. We just talked about this one, where pretty much how does alcohol affect your fluid output?
There you go. All right. We know that because it turns off ADH, which makes you pee more. Good. Okay.
Just skip that. Okay. Let's see how kidneys deal with calcium phosphate.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, how about that? Here we are. Okay. Calcium phosphate is calcium and phosphate together. This is one of the things that we dig out of the bones. Thank you, osteoclasts, being told what to do by which hormone?
PTH.
PTH, right. Okay. Now, if this were to stay together when it gets to your kidneys, it could make a kidney stone. Do we want kidney stones? No, we don't. So when this gets to your kidneys, your proximal tube says, hey, let's split this in half. Okay? Now, the reason we pulled this out of your bones is for what? The calcium or the phosphate?
The calcium.
So when we put the calcium back into the blood, we can only do that when we pee the phosphate out. Got it? You've got to keep it split. If you keep them together, they'll make a kidney stone. So as soon as they get to the kidney, let's split them. You back into the blood, you out. Okay? Out with the urea. Got it? And that's what your kidney does. Alrighty? And the same thing is true. Same thing is true. I forgot it in here or not. Do I? No, I don't. Okay. Let's walk over here. Same thing is true with this. Got it? When this gets to your kidney, this is the red blood cell, but when this gets to your kidney can split it. If I need to hold H, I'll pee out the bicarb. If I need to hold bicarb, I'll pee out the H. Got it? That's what your kidneys can do. It can decide which half of this compound, after I've cut it in half, which half do I put back in my blood, which half do I send out. Got it? And that's how you do your renal compensation. Okay?
If we have too much calcium, then we would hold the phosphate.
Right.
Yeah.
And pee out the calcium. Otherwise, mostly we need the calcium. Because we don't eat enough each day. And so we're going to pee out the phosphate and hold on to the calcium. Well, guess what? The phosphate becomes the phosphate buffer system that we saw earlier. And that buffers your pee-pee so it's not too acidic and burn you. It buffers your pee-pee. Does that make sense? It's amazing. Every time we're trying to get rid of waste, we can still use it for something positive on the way out. Okay? All right.
All right.
I love nature. The way it works. It's amazing.
Let's see.
It's complicated.
Define metabolic acidosis alkalosis. I feel like we
kind of did that one. Yeah. Those are the reasons, your body causing the acid or the base to happen.
And I think the same thing for the next one. Define respiratory acidosis alkalosis.
Right. We did that already.
Be able to identify the cause and the compensation for a patient given his blood work, which is what we did there.
Yeah. That's the blood work.
Know steps of cellular respiration, where they take place, how many ATPs are generated.
All right. Step 1.
That's a great question.
Step 1.
Glycolysis.
Glycolysis. Cut the glucose in half. Where?
In the
No.
This is the only step that's in the cytoplasm. How many ATPs do I make?
2.
2. What's step 2?
Prep step.
Prep step. Takes place in the
Mitochondria.
mitochondria. How many ATPs?
2.
0.
Oh, 0.
We're just prepping.
Oh,
We're not making any. All we're doing is chopping off one C from the 3 C's to make carbon dioxide. But now we have a 2C molecule called what? Acetyl-CoA. That can go into step 3, which is the Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle again. In the mitochondria, how many ATPs? 2. And then we have the fourth step called
electron
transport chain or electron transport system, ETS or ETC, in the mitochondria on that inner membrane of the mitochondria. And how many ATPs? 32 for a grand total of 36.
See, I knew something.
You knew something good. Okay. So I'll remember the one you don't know, and that's what I'm going to test.
It's always the start of it that I can't get. Once I hear
Okay.
glycolysis, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but glycolysis, think about what it means. Glyco, sugar. Lysis, cut it. That's what we do. We're taking the 6 carbon into putting the 2, 3 carbons called pyruvate. Then we chop off one more to make acetyl-CoA. But every time we chop off one CO2 at a time, we make, not one C, we make CO2. Sorry. Every time we chop off a C, we make CO2. Cool beans? What else?
That's it.
Okay, I do want to make sure we do this. That's going to be on your test as well. Who's a symport and who's an antiport? Well, do these two go together or do they go opposite?
Opposite.
This is a symport. Got it? They go opposite to each other.
Antiport.
Sorry, antiport. What can you tell me about these two charges?
Both positive.
They're the same charges. So, what do we need to know? Same charges, you are a antiport. Two charges that are not the same, symport. They go together. Got it? This one.
Antiport.
This one.
Antiport.
This one.
Antiport.
This one.
Symport. Symport. Antiport.
Perfect.
Hey,
Got it? And I tell the students this is the same way you need to approach pharmacology. Got it? You're going to have plenty of pharmacology stuff.
I love pharmacology.
Okay? But look at the end of the compound. It'll tell you what it is. Just like look at the charges. It'll tell you what it is. Don't try to memorize every symport and antiport. Just the simple thing that will make it one or the other. Just like all the listen, what do all proteins end in? Ion. What do all sugars end in?
OSC.
OSE. Glucose, sucrose, lactose. Got it? What do all lipids have in common?
Ester.
Ester, or OL at the end, like
Cholesterol.
cortisol. Okay? And of course, cholesterol has both of them in there. Alrighty? When you get later on, you'll see beta blockers end in LOL. Carvedilol, propanol. I'm on propanol. And then there's prils. Those are, I think those are ACE inhibitors. They end in something pril. Got it? And lisinopril. Got it? Things like that. And so look for those endings. Now, some of the newest drugs that are on the market, these are the ones that have commercials constantly. So if you watch regular TV, you might have seen commercials for Keytruda and stuff like that. They all end in MAB. Got it? Nivolumab, something else, MAB. It's always MAB. And I'm going like, okay, there's got to be a reason that the endings of all of these things, that's the one in the parentheses. I wonder what that means. It means monoclonal antibodies. So what these are, they have found a B cell, B cells make antibodies, that makes a certain antibody that attaches to cancer cells. So rather than hoping we'll find another one, you raise that one in the lab, and what's he going to make all the time? Antibodies against that one kind of cancer, or antibodies against white blood cells that are attacking your joints. Got it? Or that are attacking you and causing you to have asthma. Almost all of these medicines are some kind of mAb now, okay? Where they simply can grow them. Now, how fast does a B cell make antibodies? Pretty quick. But how long does it take a B cell to split and become another B cell? Days. So, somebody got really smart and they said, what kind of cell copies itself like this? Boom, bada boom, bada boom. PMAT. Starts with can and ends with sir.
Cancer cells.
Cancer cells, they constantly divide. You feed them, they grow. Now they're non-functional, they don't make anything. That's why they just create a tumor. Got it? But somebody was able to cut a B cell and a cancer cell and fuse them together. It's called a hybridoma. Hybrid. They're two different things together. And now the B cell, the B cell will make antibodies that fast because it'll be divided like a cancer cell. Isn't that wild? We got the best of both kinds of cells. That's the future of medicine.
And they never give somebody that cell.
No.
They just give them
the
antibodies.
They give you the result of that cell because the result is the antibodies that you want. And they can take those antibodies and they can dry them out, become a little crystal inside a little vial, and that can stay on the shelf for a while. So if you come in and you need to have this Keytruda, they will say, okay, make sure you're here, got it? And until you are 100% ready to rock and roll, then they'll go get that, inject saline into it, reconstitute it, and put it into an IV bag to slowly put it into you for an hour. And I know this because my father-in-law is getting Keytruda for his kidney cancer. And it's made his kidney tumor shrink. See, he's 82, and they said, you're not going to survive an operation. And chemo would kill you. Because remember, that's the chemical that kills everything fast-growing in your body. He only weighs like 148 pounds. Because the cancer was doing that to him. So that's what, here, let's try this. Okay? And it seems to be working. 10-4. And he's up, and he's around, and we're all happy for that. That's my wife's dad. Okay? And, but that's what these new things are. And it costs $10,000 per infusion.
Jeez,
Insurance doesn't cover it. So who does?
The patient.
No, Uncle Sam, because he's part of a study.
Okay.
See, all of these commercials that are on there, call your doctor at the bottom and see if you can become part of the study. So they're not guaranteeing it's going to work, but you're going to be part of the group to see how well it works. Got it? And so you get it for free for being a guinea pig.
Hmm.
Well, if you got no other option, why not? 10-4? So, but that's how they do clinical trials. Okay? Now, you'll be giving medicines that have been clinically tried also, I hope.
Back
Yeah.
alley stuff.
Yeah, back alley stuff, a little LSD, see what happens. Yeah, hey, I see
I heard that
colors.
people are trying that now. They're trying to
Oh,
give hallucinogenics.
I can't believe they're trying it now. They were doing that in the 60s.
It's legal now.
Yeah, but in the 60s, they weren't just doing it for fun. That was happening on Berkeley, California campuses. But no, yeah, you got it. Bye. Sorry for